Hello, my name is Christine Renee, and I'm here to share with you my weight loss journey. This is part one in the series, and I will continue to share more and more as we go along. And we'll go through the time since I was a young girl till now, right? I'm 50 years old currently, and I have been yo yo dieting and trying everything under the sun since I was about 11 or 12 years old. Now, what kind of society do we live in that a child is constantly on a diet, right? We grew up, and I grew up in a very different time where we had these supermodels on magazines and everybody needed to look perfect, and only the beautiful people were thin and they were models, and it was this and that, and like if you had any sort of thickness to you, you needed to lose weight. Like it was just absolutely ridiculous. And that was the type of situation I grew up in, right? My mother was always on a diet. I was constantly, wondering what she was doing. Like, I come from an Italian family. We were always eating. We were always making food. You couldn't leave anything on your plate, right? You had to make sure you cleaned your plate off. You couldn't feed it to the dog, or maybe you tried, but right, you were forced to eat this food. And we weren't we weren't taught the good habits that some people are taught today, right? Some families and some like schools, they educate you about how to eat and what you need to, you need to eat this and you need to eat this portion and you need to eat this portion. Like when I was growing up, yeah, all of that stuff was starting to come out with the plate and this is green and this is meat and this is whatever, right? But nobody really paid attention to it. Like you did and you didn't, right? So it was a big deal. And one of the things, right, is that I've tried every diet under the sun, yo-yo dieting year after year after year after year. I have tried Jenny Craig. I have tried Nutrisystems. I have tried protein diets. I've tried keto. I've tried, the Mediterranean diet. I tried when I was young. I remember going to the doctor, and I don't recall what age I was that I did this, but I took fen pills, right? I forget what the real names were. One was an FEN and the other was a PHEN. Um, and those turned out to be so bad for you for, whatever reason. But I took those when I was young. We were constantly buying Slim Fast and trying to this drink and that drink and trying to, not eat and be on this diet. And you know what? One of the interesting things, which we really don't focus on until now, right? We know now that we need to teach people better habits. And when I was young, they being the companies, right? Jenny Craig, Nutrisystems, you had to buy their food. And that was great and that was fine and that was dandy. And while we were on their food, it was easy, right? Because you just had to make the food and you had to eat it, and then you had weigh-ins and you had counseling and you had check-ins and you had, food journals and all of this stuff. And I'm not saying that any of that is wrong, because I think that is all a great follow-up. It's tracking, it's doing everything you need to do. However, we're never taught to eat properly and how to make this an actual lifestyle change. Um, One of the diets I was on in my later years in life, probably around 40, I would say I was on this diet called Ideal Protein, and it was a fabulous diet, right? It was high protein, and I lost a lot of weight on this diet. And I was down to about like 140, 145, which for me was stick thin. And basically, you looked kind of like sick when you were on it, right? Because you lost all of the fat of your body and you were basically just bones and all of your skin from, the weight loss. And it was very interesting. but it was not sustainable, right? Because they try and have several phases for you where, you've got this packaged food, you buy that, and then the second phase is, you're kind of packaged food and real food. And then the third phase was the phase where you go straight to real food. And I never made it to phase 3, right? I made it to phase 2, and, just like anything else, right? You get to the weight that you wanna be, or you're feeling good, and you decide that you're done, right? You're like, "Okay, great. Like, I'm done with the diet. I don't need to do anything else." And then you forget, or you're not taught that you need to actually make these changes for your lifestyle instead of, oh, the quick fix of, let me just buy their food, eat it, and then I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to work out. I don't have to drink my water. I don't have to not drink alcohol. I don't have to do X, Y, and Z, right? And that was what I ended up going through when I was about 40. After that, I had kept the weight off for quite some time, right? Um, and actually I should back up. I should back up. I When I was pregnant, so I was pregnant around 34, 35. I had a couple of miscarriages, so I was gaining weight, stress, depression, all of that stuff. And then when I got pregnant, I gained a lot of weight with my baby. So I weighed about 240 pounds. I was very uncomfortable. And I did breastfeed for a little bit, but what I ended up doing more so was pumping, and that helped lose the weight and whatnot. And I felt good, but I still was overweight. So that continued for a little while, being overweight, but not like, extremely large. I was probably 180. And then I just kept gaining weight and gaining weight and gaining weight and gaining weight. And suddenly I was back up to that 240, not pregnant this time, right? So I was very, very, very uncomfortable. And I just, you can't breathe, you can't wear cute clothes. These are my opinions, my feelings, my perceptions, right, of myself and only myself. I didn't feel like I was cute. I didn't feel like I was pretty. I didn't feel like I could wear cute clothes. I felt like I was wearing like tents, and nothing, you couldn't wear anything that was fitting and slim and made you, feel really good about yourself. Like that was how I felt. I felt just gross, right? Like I just felt heavy and I felt very uncomfortable. I couldn't breathe. Now, I still was the kind of person to do my makeup. I loved doing my makeup and I loved doing my hair and I loved all that stuff. But what I didn't like was the way I looked. I didn't like the way my face looked. I had a very round face when I was heavy, and I wasn't happy with myself, and I needed to do something. So that was pretty much when I found that ideal protein diet, and I ended up on that diet for quite some time. And I was on it once, and then I lost a lot of weight, and I was back down to 140. Then a period of about 5 years, I kept creeping up, creeping up, creeping up, creeping up, right? Like continuously gaining weight and gaining weight. And, it took a long time to gain that weight back, but eventually I was back to something. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just do that diet again because it worked so well the first time. Doesn't work quite like that, right? The first time you do something, or the first time I do something, I stuck to everything. Like I followed the plans to the T. I did everything I needed to do. I was constantly going to my counseling sessions every week, which was basically just a check-in. And I'd buy the food and I was on top of it all. And you know, that's how it is the first time. But the second time, you kind of feel like, oh, well, I could get away with this, and I could get away with this, and I could get away with this. Because what we're forgetting throughout this entire process is the fact that we haven't changed our mindset. We haven't changed who we are and the way we think about food. So if we haven't changed any of this stuff, what are we expecting of ourselves? We're expecting ourselves to magically know how to eat, know how to be a skinny person. We don't know how to be skinny people, right? We don't know how to be the person who doesn't binge eat, to be the person that doesn't eat emotionally, or eat when you're just depressed or sad, or having just high emotions. We don't know how to be the person who is not a stress eater. I had I'll tell you a quick story. I had a thing at work that I had to do that was very stressful. And when that came about and I had to start this investigation, I was stress eating like 100%. The first thing I did was bought a bag of peanut M&Ms, and M's, and I ate pretty much the whole entire bag. And I'm not talking a little bag. I'm not talking like these. I'm talking about these. Do you know what I mean? And I just remember sitting there and it being very stressful, and I had the bag and I just kept eating them and eating them and eating them, and because yeah, apparently I'm an emotional eater, and apparently I'm a stress eater, and I had no idea. And here I am. I've been dieting since I was 12, and here I was 45 at the time, right? Somewhere around that age. And maybe I was 40 at that time. So, you know what I mean? So either way, 30 years of dieting and not learning how to really eat properly or prep your food, or like, I've been on a million diets. I know what needs to be done. It doesn't mean that it's going to be done. It doesn't mean that I'm going to not stress eat, that I'm not going to emotionally eat. Like, I eat out of boredom as well. Like, it's so difficult. It's so hard, but we have to change our mindset. And that's kind of what I am coming to the conclusion of now. And I don't mean now as in like today, I mean now over the past few years. I've made some lifestyle changes, and I really understand what it takes to get where I need to be. And it's not a quick fix diet. I'll tell you that much. It's not a quick fix diet. Can that be helpful for a short period of time? Absolutely. But it's key that we change our mindset and we learn how to work through those stress eating, emotional eating, boredom eating areas of our life, so that we're not constantly, looking for food or trying to figure out how you're going to get to the end of your day and you don't know what to do with yourself. So you're like, oh, I'm just going to eat something to keep myself awake. I'm going to eat to not be bored. I'm going to eat to, right? We have to find different things to do with our time, different things to do with our hand, our mouth, whatever it may be, so that we can change our lifestyle, change our mindset. And this is what we don't learn when we are those types of people, when we have been dealing with this our entire lives. I was always a thicker child. I do laugh though, I look back through photos of when I was 12, and I remember in my head thinking that I was a fat kid. I was not a fat kid. Like, I look back at the photos and I'm like, "Okay, who thought you were fat?" Like, if somebody ever said you were fat, well, you know what? They know where to jump off a bridge, because are you kidding me? Like, I was not a fat child, and it blows my mind. Like, I always had that mindset in my head. And even now I do. I pretty much have a mindset in my head that I'm just a heavier person, or like, not thicker boned, like people, say that jokingly all the time. Oh, I've just got big bones. You know what I mean? That's why I'm heavier. No, it could be that way. Like, you may have big bones, but you know what I'm saying? Like, we just see ourselves differently. We see and visualize ourselves differently. Like, I don't see myself as a skinny person. I see myself as a thicker person, but I also see myself as a very strong person. So I think my personality and my demeanor and my voice and everything make me a bigger person. So I don't think I'm definitely not some skinny little girl who can't has no balls, for lack of a better term, right? You know what I mean? I'm strong, right? So I've got a strong personality, and with that comes, like, powerful, right? Strength and power. Um but I'll I'll continue with this thing, with this thought process, just that we don't know how to see ourselves as being thin people. And it's really kind of sad. Like, we just, I never saw myself as thin. And when we get into, what I ultimately did in the end, which is what I ended up around, let's see, I'm 50 now. So 2 years ago, 2 and a little bit years ago, I had bariatric surgery. I had weight loss surgery, and I had the gastric sleeve. But I really want to go into that and that entire journey in the next part of this series, or further down the road. But I will get to that, and I will tell you all about that experience. And it was a great experience, but again, it's just a tool in our toolbox. All of these diets are just tools in our toolbox, right? From the ideal protein, I ended up taking a shot, and I can't remember what the shot's name was. Went to my doctor and was like, "Listen, I know there's a medicine out there that I can take, that it's an injection, and I have to do it every day, and I know it'll assist with losing weight." And she's like, "Yeah, sure, let's try it." And because I've explained, I'm like, "Listen, I've gone back to this ideal protein diet 2 or 3 times, and I'm not losing any weight. I can't stick with it. I'm having a very difficult time." And it was my plea to her, because here I am on this weight loss journey, but it's not about weight anymore, right? When you're a kid, and when you're younger, and you're in your late teens, early 20s, early 30s, it's about weight, and it's about looking good, and it's about feeling good. But the older you get, the more it really becomes about health and and wellness. And it really it really should have always been about health and wellness, but that wasn't the focus. That wasn't the focus when we were younger. In my day and age, I was born in the 70s. That was not the focus when we were younger. Your focus was not health and wellness. It was, you got to look beautiful. You got to be, the skinny little model. Like, that was what you saw. That was your perception. That was what you needed to look like, right? And so when I got to become a little bit older, and now here I'm going to the doctor and saying, "Okay, now this is really about health and wellness. It's no longer about looking good." Of course, but I still want to look good. Do not get me wrong, because I'm all about my nails and my makeup, my hair, everything, my eyelashes. But it's really important that we see the difference, right? Because the difference before, it was like, "Oh yeah, I just need to be hot in a bikini." And now we're like, "Okay, I've got a lot of things happening right now. My cholesterol's high. Maybe your blood pressure is high," which, luckily, thank God, I'm 50 and I still have very good blood pressure. And I do have, heart history in my family. So I really need to pay attention to that. But I was having acid reflux. I was, I snoring at night. So I was having sleep apnea, which I didn't realize that until later, and we'll talk about that. But I was overweight. So of course I was snoring, and of course I was just uncomfortable. When you're laying there and you're overweight, you've got all this pressure pushing up against you, right? And you just don't know, like, you can't breathe as well, right? There's pressure on your heart, pressure on your airways, and all of that good stuff, and it just makes it difficult. But my cholesterol was high. I and that was for a long time. But as I would lose weight and then gain weight and then lose weight and gain weight, it was like, "Well, I don't want to be on any medicine, so let me lose all this weight so I cannot be on medicine." And then I'd gain the weight back, and then I'm not on medicine. So it was just this horrible cycle. And the more weight I gained, the more the doctor's looking at me and saying, "Okay, um, you know, you have diabetes in your family. We should probably check your A1C levels." And of course, what are my A1C levels? They're high. So I'm basically pre-diabetic. So here I am, basically yo yo, with all my weight going up, going down, going up, going down. And it was very, very difficult to try and find the place I wanted to be, right? Because I still hadn't changed my mindset. I still hadn't figured out that, okay, no, I really have to do something for my life and for myself and for my body forever. I can't keep doing this because I'm going to hurt myself, like, physically, right? I'm going to have high cholesterol, and then, something's gonna happen and I'm gonna have heart issues, or I'm gonna end up diabetic. And then, my grandmother was diabetic, so I know what happens to people who have diabetes for their life. It's difficult and it's very hard. And, it's difficult. And I needed to see the light, right? I needed to see that all of this and any changes that I needed to be doing needed to be focused on health and wellness and not just weight loss, not just being beautiful, not just wearing awesome and amazing clothes, which of course I want to do, right? I want to be beautiful. I want to wear these cute clothes that I want to. Granted, now I'm 50, so I can't necessarily wear like the cute clothes that I want to wear because they're too young. They're too young for me. It's totally fine. It's fine. I can wear older people clothes and still be cute. My daughter tells me anytime we go shopping, we'll go to a store and be like, "Oh my god, that's so cute." She's like, "You can't shop at the same store I shop at." Like, fine. Fine. But, I want to be the person where, you walk into a room and everybody turns to stare at you and just are like blown away with your beauty and just the way you look. And if that's slightly vain, oh well, it's fine by me. I like to look good. That's all there is to it. There's really, it makes me feel good. It's my confidence level. It's my desire to be beautiful. It's my desire to be comfortable in my clothes. It's my desire to be able to breathe easy. It's my desire to, have my feet not hurt if I've been standing all day. It's my desire to, not have, knee pain and hip pain. And of course we're going to get all of this stuff anyways, just as we get older. And the more you exercise and the more you move, yes, it helps, oil your joints and, and all of that good stuff, which is great. But things hurt too. Um, as I've gotten older, I definitely have shoulder pain, and my right hip hurts and my knees are tough. But, you know, you have to make different decisions that are better for you. Like currently, this is current. I am really trying to focus on foods that are not inflammatory because I do have knee pain and I do have hip pain. And if I can eat foods that aren't so inflammatory, well, then that swelling will go down. Or, depending on what I'm doing, make sure I'm drinking my water. So, I've got plenty of, you know, plenty of room for my joints to move and whatnot. But when they're inflamed and when I'm eating these inflammatory foods, then it makes it all more difficult. So I'm really, really, really trying to focus on some changes in that way at this point in time. But so here I was, you know, 2 years ago, a little bit over 2 years ago, so 48 and some change. And I'm starting to freak out, right? I'm like, oh my God, like so many things are wrong with me. I'm like, I'm going to have to go on cholesterol medication. I am pre-diabetic. Like I have heartburn all the time. Like this is ridiculous. I was working horrific shifts. Like I was working the swing shift, like the midnight shift. And it's so not healthy for you and it's so not good. And your body's a mess, you have difficulty sleeping, and we all know that sleep is like the key to life, right? You just have to sleep. Sleep is your healing, sleep is your regeneration, sleep is, everything for your body. It's a must have to keep your body going. And when you're working the midnight shift, then things start to go downhill, right? You've got stress, you've got depression, because you're on the wrong side of the circadian rhythm. You're not with the light and you're not with the nighttime when you should be at night. You know what I mean? I did my best to try and, stay with the cycle. So even though I was work, all the lights were off, stuff like that. But it doesn't matter. You're awake. So your whole body is just kind of screwy. And so that did not help with my weight loss journey either. So here I am. about 48, and I'm like, "Okay," and I had just come off the midnight shift, I believe, and I was like, "Okay, we gotta make some changes here." Like, I'm heavy again, I'm very uncomfortable, I can't bend over to tie my shoes comfortably. Every time you bend over, like, I could feel like it was all pushing up right into my throat, like, like it was just heartburn, right? Just by bending over, I was just uncomfortable, having trouble breathing. Walking upstairs, I would have some trouble. And it was just, I was uncomfortable and I was very sad about it, and going to the gym when you're heavy is difficult, right? But you can do it. You can certainly do it. And I've definitely been in those situations where I've been heavier and I'm like, "Well, I gotta get to the gym, gotta do it." And then you stop going for whatever reason. Something happens, you make excuses, you just don't have the willpower, etcetera. It's hard on your knees, it's hard on this, it's hard on the. I've done so many different things to try and change my mindset and try and get myself in the right place, but I still wasn't in the right place, right? So, when I did that ideal protein diet, that was kind of like a Kickstarter, right? Until 5 years later, I was starting to gain the weight back again, did it again, did again, did again, couldn't lose the weight, tried the shots. That helped. That type of thing, the shots, and it wasn't Ozempic and it wasn't the other one, the one that starts with a M, I think. It wasn't either of those, but I can't remember what it was. But I was on it for a few weeks, a few months maybe, and I started getting really nauseous from it. So that didn't really help me. So that that shot would help curb your appetite. But again, what type of eater am I? Emotional, stress, bored. None of those have anything to do with hunger, right? So if the shot is keeping me from being hungry, it doesn't really matter because I'm not hungry when I'm eating when I'm stressed. I'm not hungry when I'm eating because I'm bored. I'm not hungry when I'm eating because I'm emotional. So it's a different place to be when you're trying to lose weight because it's not the same. It's not the same as I'm overeating because I'm hungry. It's I'm eating and eating wrong things because I'm in a different emotional place. So, learning that about myself was probably one of the most amazing things I've ever learned about myself. But it took me until it was when I realized that during that investigation was I realized that was when I realized that I was an emotional eater and stress eater. So now that I had that kind of knowledge, right now I'm like, okay, I can actually do something with that. I can actually make some changes in my life. And still, I did not make the changes. Um, I at least knew, and I know now, right? I knew that I that was when I ate. So at least that was a positive. But now it's basically changing your mindset. And it's hard. It's a struggle, right? No matter what you do, you can lose weight a million times, but unless we figure out how to stick with our mindset and keep our mindset the same and remember what we're actually doing this for, which is the health and wellness piece rather than the, vain piece, looking beautiful, wearing amazing clothes, which those all come with all of that. It's it's necessary to change the mindset and it's necessary to remember what we're doing this for, right? Certain age need to be healthy, especially you've got kids, you've got family, you want to be around for people, right? So I made the decision. I made the decision that I wanted to talk to my doctor about weight loss surgery. And sometimes, like, I wasn't sure how doctors felt about weight loss surgery. I had no idea. And I didn't even really know too much about it, just that there were different versions out there and I went into my doctor to ask questions and find out what I needed to do. So this is part one of my series and of my story. So I just want to talk to you about my history and how I got to where I am today. And that's all part of it, right? All of the yo-yo dieting since I was 12 years old. So basically being on a diet, right? Diet because we term it as a diet and it's not a diet, right? At this point in time, we have to realize that it's really a lifestyle change and it is something that has to, it's a decision that you have to make daily, right? And it's okay if you decide one day to have a cookie. Who cares? No big deal. What's important is the remainder of your decisions every day. So, like I said, this is the very beginning of my journey, and this is how I got to making the decision of weight loss surgery and talking to my doctor and asking all the questions. So, my name is Christine Renee. You can follow me over on Instagram at Christine Renee underscore. I am here on YouTube right now as Christine Renee 88. And I do share everything over to Facebook, but I will be primarily posting things here on YouTube and hopefully going live at some point in time. But yeah, that's it. Go ahead and give me a follow, subscribe here so you can find out what the rest of my journey was all about. And I will hopefully talk to you soon. So thank you so much for listening. Please comment and let me know what your journey was and is, and if you have made the decision to make to have weight loss surgery, or if you're in the process, or if you're on the fence and you haven't even decided yet. Let me know. I would love to hear from you, and give me a follow on Instagram, and I'll talk to you soon.